and welcome to another episode of Fire Up. I hope everybody's fired up. Are you guys?
I am, as always.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, this is still one of my favorite times of the year. Football is starting, baseball is still going on. Yeah, my two favorite sports. So I'm sitting loving it. I've got the football game on in the background. We get to talk sports. Gotta love that. Gotta love that. So, guys, I have a question for you. Cleveland Browns, their quarterback. Who gets jobs? Who's not? Who's in? Who's out? Because they're not going to keep all of the quarterbacks. They can't.
Well,
So
the one they can and they shouldn't because he's on the IR is Deshaun Watson because they
Yeah.
restructured him so they can afford him. Cyberooski! Smoking Dad has entered the building too. But well, it's Joe Flacco.
right.
And I think it's going to come down to Tyler Huntley as the second because he's a proven backup that has actually won games and won a playoff game before. So I think that's a valuable asset to have behind him. And I think that third quarterback is going to come down to whoever does better between Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel. And right now, you have to give a slight leg up to Shedeur Sanders, which was surprising because I thought Dylan Gabriel would have been good coming out of college.
Samir, your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. So Flacco being named the starter is not a surprise. He's been in that system before. He's operated it, took him to the playoffs a couple years ago. So that's not a surprise. Tyler Huntley, I agree with you on that. Having a veteran, even if it's a backup who has started in games, who's got experience, is always a plus, even if he is a backup. And I would like to say, based off of how each of them have played in their appearances, Shedeur Sanders should have the edge for that number 3 spot. Now with Dylan Gabriel, I don't think they're just going to trade him months after drafting him. Now, do they add him to the practice squad? Because it's not likely. Like, you don't really see teams carry 4 quarterbacks. You just don't see that. Now, but the thing is, you add him to the practice squad, that makes him available for another team to just come and poach him. And if you drafted him in the 3rd round, you're just not going to let another team come and poach your 3rd round pick off the practice squad. So it will be interesting to see what they do there. But I would say Flacco's QB1, not a surprise there. Huntley's the backup, and Shedeur would be the 3rd string to start with. Now, how that fluctuates throughout the season, could we see Shedeur Sanders start sometime down the road, maybe late in the year? I do think that's a possibility, but could it be Gabriel? That's a possibility as well. It just really depends on how everything lines up, which is a big unknown. I mean, the Browns are not going to be very good this year. That's not a secret. It's not a surprise.
No.
So it's just depends on how everything lines up.
Don't tell me that. I had the hopes.
So, what are they going to do with Kenny Pickett?
Kenny Pickett and Fleckett will be gone.
Yeah, I think they cut him.
Okay. Even didn't they go out to get him this off season? So they're going to cut.
They signed him and then turned right around and signed Joe Flacco not even a week later.
I think Kenny Pickett in that one is the odd man out.
Yeah, because Kenny Pickett played in the first game and he was awful. And they turned right around and signed Huntley, and you haven't seen hide nor hair of Kenny Pickett ever since. So I'm pretty sure he's the main odd man out, and it's going to come down to who goes to that waiver wire on the cut down day between Sanders and Gabriel. And I do give Sanders, just because of how he's played this preseason, the leg up. The oblique strain bothers me, and that might be, even though he just came off of it and he just started taking team events on Wednesday, I believe I read. So
he's going to play this week in the off-season preseason game.
I think that's a bad idea, just coming off an oblique injury, and I'll explain why. We had a certain player for Detroit that's a future Hall of Famer that had an oblique strain. They brought him back a month sooner than they should have at his age and his weight. What happened? 3 months to start the next season. So oblique here gets a core muscle injury. Core muscle you use all the time. When you don't think you're using them, you're using them.
So if rookie Dylan Gabriel is odd man out and Kenny Pickett, do you see them going to any other teams? And if you do, which team do you think would pick either one of them up?
Well, I think one obvious choice is the Colts. We know their quarterback situation there isn't the best, and who knows, maybe we get to a point in mid, because I know Shane Steichen said that Daniel Jones is going to start long term. It's not going to be, maybe, you've seen a couple games here, a couple games there. Daniel Jones is going to start. But what if they start Daniel Jones and through 5 or 6 games, he just looks horrible? He looks like he did in New York for most of his career, gets benched. Anthony Richardson goes and maybe doesn't look much better. Maybe they look outside and maybe take a look at Dylan Gabriel. Another one is the Saints. Their quarterback room is currently Jake Heener, Spencer Rattler, and Tyler Shuck. And if I were to guess, I would say Spencer Rattler has the leg up right now in that competition. But maybe what if they want to get rid of Jake Heener, or if someone's the odd man out, they could maybe take a look at Dylan Gabriel. I think the Rams, I don't know, because I know Stafford's got the issue with his back, but it seems like he's going to be ready week 1. Stetson Bennett played and looked pretty good in that preseason game. And you've got Jimmy Garoppolo, who I would still take as a third stringer right now over Dylan Gabriel. So those are really 2 teams that come to mind. A possible wild card, it is unlikely, but I think over here in Atlanta, if a situation arises and Kirk Cousins indeed ends up getting moved, maybe, because right now you would have Michael Penix and Easton Stick, and Emory Jones was just waived recently, so maybe that could be a possibility, but I don't think it's likely for Atlanta.
Jimmy G string, my dad.
So, Jeremy, you have any thoughts about where you think the 2 might go?
I think Kenny Pickett will be just cut outright, and I think that Gabriel will end up back on the practice squad, because there aren't many teams that are going to take him. And then that way it frees up Pickett, because if you sign him, that means you can sign him to the practice squad at a discount for Kenny Pickett. So I think they're going to let him go through the 24 hours and let him be cut by the team. Because that's the way I would do it if I was a GM. Rather than getting him into that room right off the rip and make him have to take reps and know a playbook, you can ease him into it and give him more weeks by protecting him, because you got that 4-week protection clause. Which, if you paid attention to what the Lions did last year, they were very smart with how they worked their protected players. They would play them a game, and it resets the 4-game clock. So that's something you could do with somebody like that. You could put Kenny Pickett there, let him be on the practice squad, learning the playbook, playing as the opposing team's quarterback for a while. Then bring him in for a game, even if it's just 1 snap. Just have him be active on the roster. And then if he's not ready, don't even play him a snap. Send him right back to the practice squad. And then you can protect him again if you want to keep him. Or you can just let him walk. I think that's the smart way to go with Kenny Pickett. I think Kenny Pickett has a better chance of getting somewhere than Dylan Gabriel.
Kenny could go back to being the Steelers, be the backup to the old man Rodgers. Yeah, I don't know about that one. The Steelers already have a couple behind him. They just they just played tonight and they did win. I mean, I know it's preseason, but let's see how Skylar Thompson was 11 of 13 for 152 yards with one touchdown, quarterback rating of 141. That's not a bad backup.
Yeah, not bad.
On the flip side, Carolina had Jack Plummer, who was 7 of 14 for 48 yards, one touchdown and one interception. QBR of 52.1. So
yeah. I mean that seems about on par for third stringer or backup. But one thing I will say, I'll tell you who looked good today. Jackson Dart of the Giants.
Yeah.
I mean, I know he played a couple of series. He did go, I think 6 for 12, but I watched part of that game and he looked a lot better than what those numbers suggest. I know the receivers dropped a couple of passes. He did lead a couple of touchdown drives, threw for one touchdown. And given how this season goes for the Giants, I think there is a good chance that while Russell Wilson is the undisputed starter for now, I think there's a good chance that you see Jackson Dart a lot earlier than anticipated.
So how many quarterbacks are the Giants going to keep? Because they have Dart, DeVito, Winston.
I mean, I think clearly one of Winston or DeVito is going to be the odd man out.
Okay.
Yeah,
and if I were to guess, I would say Winston would get that roster spot over Tommy DeVito.
Yep, I agree with that 100%. I think it's going to end up being Russell Wilson, Jackson Dart, and then Jameis Winston. And I'm not saying that's the order, but that's the three they're going to keep.
Right. Okay. Okay, so they're playing the Patriots. How do we think the Patriots are doing?
I mean, like overall this season, or I think they're going to be a lot better than they have been the last couple of years. I think obviously you have an influx of talent. You've got a young quarterback there. Their offensive line will definitely be better. They have Will Campbell at tackle and Jared Wilson. They got Jared Wilson in the second round, center out of Georgia. They've got some talent on that defense, especially up front. So, well, I do think they are a year away, but I do think they will be much improved. Like I could see 7-10, possibly an 8-9.
I had them in that. I think they were going to be better than last year and everything else. And I did put them in that 6 to 9 win ratio, where that's how it feels. The floor is 6 wins, the ceiling is 9, because they also got better coaching.
Definitely.
So that automatically gives them one more win with the exact amount of talent that they had last year, and they're more talented this year.
Yeah. So I do feel like they will be improved. I think a concern for them is lack of depth at wide receiver. They've got Diggs, and I think at 31, he's not going to be the Diggs he was late in his career in Minnesota and what he was with Josh Allen in Buffalo, or how he didn't look the same last year even in Houston, but I do think he can give you about 950, maybe 1,000. There's a good chance of that. But they just lost Jalen Polk, their second round pick from last year for this season. And outside of that, there's not really a whole lot there on the outside. I do like their running back room, though. I will say that.
Yes,
I like Travion Henderson. I do think he is a sleeper in fantasy. A good second back in fantasy. I do think he's going to get a lot of touches this year. So, but there's just not enough depth at wide receiver. Yeah, Vrabel alone does give the Patriots at least 3 more wins. And keep in mind, you have Josh McDaniels back at OC. Say what you want about him as a head coach. He is one of the best offensive coordinators in recent memory.
I would go with that. I would agree with that. I mean, I think some coaches are just better at like an OC or a DC coaching spot, but
there's plenty
so
of them.
there is, and not everybody can be you know head coach or should be a head coach.
Joey Uso. What's up, buddy? He's
So
an Eagles fan that watches my show.
the title, who comes out on top, Jerry Jones or Micah Parsons?
Who signs the check?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we've seen this with the Cowboys before. Homegrown talent wants to get paid him what he's worth. Jerry Jones Stephen Jones does what they don't have to do. They drag it out. They get into a public standoff. Both sides kind of take shots at each other. And then right before the season, Jerry Jones caves and ends up paying that guy way more than what they would have had to pay him before if they had just paid him off the bat. Like they did it with Dez Bryant. They did it with Zeke. They end up paying Dak, I believe, $60 million. They paid him like hours before their game week 1. And then now they're dragging it out with Micah Parsons. So Myles Garrett set the market. Of course, he got $40 million a year from the Browns. Micah Parsons is going to want more of that. He's going to want north of that, I'm assuming. So Micah Parsons is going to win at the end of the day, just like the player wins every time when you're negotiating with Jerry Jones.
Yep, I think overall Jerry Jones is going to win, but he's going to overpay to keep him. So it's a win for Micah Parsons at the same time.
Because the player got what they want in some. So I don't know how. He doesn't win.
No, he wins because he keeps them there. That's what I'm getting at. That's how he wins. It's a win for both. Micah gets what he wants because he will get overpaid. Look what Dak got paid.
Yeah.
I mean, Dak has the exact same postseason results as Trevor Lawrence and as Daniel Jones, as
Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, one playoff win. There's a ton of those guys in there.
Yeah. I just don't understand why Jerry Jones keeps doing this. Like he it's like you burn bridges in the process with your players potentially, and you end up paying them way over the market.
And you end up making them complacent because they got the money they wanted and mostly guaranteed.
Yeah. I know there was a clip a couple weeks ago about how during the offseason, just so the Cowboys keep making headlines, he admitted to the media that he'll just stir up a story. He's like, yeah, I'll start something so the media talks about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's coming. Supposedly, it came out. They were talking today that Jerry claims that they had agreed to an extension way back in March. Do we believe that?
Not a chance. Because the only extensions he's made in the early off season like that, back in March, is usually the rank and file guys, the guys that are cheap, that he can afford to do whatever he wants. I kind of agree with that, because if you look at the results of the team ever since they won the last Super Bowl, which was with the players that Jimmy Johnson put together, Barry Switzer wasn't a great coach, because if that's the case, they had the same exact team the next year, plus their draft class, and did way less.
Yeah. Well, not only that, just look at the coaches Jerry Jones hires. Like they've all either played for he runs the Cowboys like a family business, like a mom and pop. They all either played for the Cowboys or they're guys who will basically fall in line and do what he says.
Yep.
Like notice how he never fires coaches. Like the Cowboys don't fire coaches. They always seemingly don't have their contracts renewed.
Mhm. They're all one and done contracts. Every single
Yeah,
one of them, except for Jason Garrett. Jason Garrett was his
yeah.
yes man. He kept him around 3 years too long. Right. I agree, Eddie Prather. I could have won that Super Bowl that Switzer won with Jimmy's players. 100%. They were
Yeah.
100% one of the best rosters in the NFL at that time.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I agree. Okay. Okay. So, what NFL coaches do you think are in the hot seat?
Yeah. Interesting. I wrote an article about this a while ago, and I think I included 6. One of them was Mike McDaniel. They make the playoffs. Um, they they ended up going 8-9, I believe, last year, in late season games in cold weather. And the thing about that is, if you're going like the big 3 in the AFC are Kansas City, Buffalo, Baltimore. And if you want to win in January, you're going to have to play. You're going to have to get through those teams and have to play at their stadiums. And they haven't been able to win in cold weather, and they haven't been able to win big games. And then you hear reports about how he's potentially losing the locker room. The players don't respect him. So that's another case where Mike McDaniel, great offensive mind, great play caller, is he the answer as a head coach? I don't know. And then you have Zach Taylor. Now, Zach Taylor is interesting because I don't think it's really all his fault that the front office won't, or that Mike Brown isn't willing to put the money forth to build a contender. But I just don't see how you have a top 5 quarterback, arguably the best receiver in the NFL, and miss the playoffs again. As a Falcons fan, I put Raheem Morris on there for 2 reasons. Number one, for those who don't remember, this is not his first go round as a head coach in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Now he was 30 years old. He inherited a really bad Bucks team, and the Bucks at that point they had that 10, 11-year stretch where they were just dysfunctional. They had issues with the front office, and then I think Bruce Arians got there and kind of cleaned it up. But he did go 17-31 with the Bucks in 3 years. He has been a part of some really good coaching staffs over the years, and there was one in Washington where it was him, Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, amongst others. Then he had the one in Atlanta with Dan Quinn, Jeff Ulbrich, Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur, Mike McDaniel. And then he had the one with the Rams with Sean McVay's coaching staff, where he won a Super Bowl as a defensive coordinator. So he's been around the NFL for over 20 years. Number one, this is not his first go around as a head coach. Number two, it's just some housekeeping things that, like, again, as I mentioned, the team failed, especially defensively, which is supposed to be his calling card, seemingly failed to get off the bus on numerous occasions last year. Notably, in a must-win game at home against the Carolina Panthers, they get 44 put on them at home. You hired a horrible defensive coordinator in Jimmy Lake, who you got rid of. But it's just, and then just the minor things like the way he reports injuries, like it's not a big deal, but it's just not very clear. The clock management, the way the end of that Commanders game was coached, and that's a prominent example, but there are others. It's just a multitude of things. And while this roster does have flaws, especially with depth, there is no reason why we don't have a shot at winning this division. But unfortunately, I don't trust the head coach, and that's what's really a concern. Now, I do believe this is a make or break year, not only for him, but also for Terry Fontenot, the general manager. He's been here, it's going in year 5, hasn't had a winning season, and has a sketchy draft record. You just traded includes drafting Kyle Pitts 4th overall, highest drafted tight end in NFL history, over guys like Micah Parsons, Penei Sewell, Pat Surtain. You've got some reaches in rounds 2 and 3. But overall, this is a make or break year for Raheem Morris. If they don't win, if they don't at least have a winning season, I think 90% chance he's gone. I included Brian Dable on there. I think he's on the hottest seat. I do like what the Giants did this offseason. But the question is, will they be able to bear the fruits of their offseason? It seems like they are in a better place than they were last year, but we'll see. So I've got Zach Taylor, Shane Steichen, who I mentioned, the disaster with how they've handled the quarterback situation, seemingly gave up on Anthony Richardson. And I know he had his flaws, but him and Chris Ballard alike took a chance on him 4th overall. I think he should have stayed another year at Florida. But I feel like, and here's the issue, I feel like partly the success of guys like Jaden Daniels and CJ Stroud have kind of made expectations for a lot of rookie quarterbacks, young quarterbacks, almost unrealistic. Because the norm for a rookie quarterback is what Bryce Young looked like in Carolina. You get put on a bad team, a bad offensive line, and they get beat up. Trevor Lawrence, same thing. Caleb Williams got sacked almost 70 times last year. Like, that is the norm for most NFL quarterbacks. It's not Jaden Daniels and CJ Stroud who are winning playoff games in year 1. And I think after just 15 games, like, people forget that. And I think the issue there, I wouldn't have done it. The issue there was not only the durability and the accuracy, but I think when he took himself out of that game, I think they're playing the Patriots. He took himself out of that game. And, like, as the quarterback, it's like, what are you doing? You know, you can't do that. And he was like, yeah, I was tired. Like it's like everyone at that point in the season is tired. And it was a horrible look for a franchise quarterback. And I feel like it's something that's kind of hard to come back from. So Shane Steichen's on that list. I did mention Zach Taylor. I've got Mike McDaniel, Zach Taylor, Raheem Morris, Shane Steichen,
and Brian
Dable. So those are my 5. And I think a wild card potentially, and I think a wild card is Jonathan Gannon. He's at the point now where it's year 3. He's 13-21 in Arizona. Like, they did improve the roster. It's time to make a step in the right direction. Another wild card, I think, is Dave Canales, only because the owner is David Tepper, and you never know there. So,
well, I'm going to disagree on Dave Canales, because I've seen a lot of improvement in Bryce Young in that second time after he came back
definitely.
and he looked like a different quarterback.
Oh, I agree, but the issue is you have David Tepper as the owner. That's why
David Tepper was told to step back by Dan Morgan, or he wouldn't be GM.
All right, yeah, that makes sense. So
that's why Dan Morgan took the job. He goes, if I'm taking the job, you shut up, sit back, and let me run the team like I'm supposed to.
Yeah. That makes sense then. And I think another one that people aren't talking about, which also I think is unfair, another wild card, is Brian Callahan in Tennessee. So their offense struggled. Will Levis struggled. You get Cam Ward. But I think the wild card there is it's a bad roster, but you do have a new general manager. And what if, in Mike Berganzi, they got him from the Chiefs, what if he may want to bring in his own guy? Kind of like what we saw with Mike Vrabel when they bought in Rand Carthon. There was a power struggle there. Seemed like Vrabel lost out. So what could happen there?
All right. So I agree with everybody you said, but I'm going to add another one in there, Kyle Shanahan. I think he's a wild card on being let go. That his seat's a little warmer than everybody thinks, because if Brock Purdy looks as bad as I think he will, because Christian McCaffrey's going to miss some time, Brandon Ayuk's going to miss some time. They got Sky Moore, but Purdy got a little more, but compared to what he lost, that's nothing. And Juwan Jennings isn't happy there. So you got a weapon that's not happy, a bunch of them not injured or gone, and you picked up a weapon that doesn't run routes well. The only thing he's good at is a bubble screen, which Brock Purdy's very good at, but they lost so much on defense on the starting side too. I mean, I understand Robert Salah is a defensive guru. We know that. We saw him with San Francisco before, and he gets the most out of his players. But go look at the players he had when he was coaching them. He has 1/3 the talent that he used to have. So, they lost Greenlaw, they lost Kinlaw, they lost quite a few people, and Parker, yeah. So, and they've had some injuries to that roster already. I heard they lost. The Bucks had an injury yesterday. They lost Jalen McMillan for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's a bunch of injuries that are happening that are awful. If you hear that it's a surgery, 9 times out of 10, it's either going to be most of the season or all of the season at this point.
Yeah, we just had one yesterday. Caleb McGarry, our blindside tackle, was carted off. And Jeremy Fowler reported today that he is going to miss time. The hope is it is not season ending. And I know Raheem Morris is going to provide an update at a press conference. So my guess it could, and of course Storm Norton, our backup swing tackle, who's actually been serviceable when he's played, is also going to miss 6 to 8 weeks. So we have a huge problem at probably outside of quarterback, the last position we could afford to have a problem at, and that's Michael Penix's blindside tackle.
Yeah, if Houston doesn't win the South, the guy that's down there that's done so good getting them to the playoffs and winning the South the last 2 years should be gone.
D'Amico Ryans?
Yeah, I'm sorry, but with that roster in that division, there isn't a team that's that talented. And I hear people say Jacksonville, but I see them as the second best team in the division. I see them as the second best team in the division on accident. Just because I think the Titans are right, because the Titans and Colts are so bad. And John Lynch, yes, Eddie Prather, you're on it. John Lynch should be on the hot seat because he's the one that acquired and got rid of these players.
So I have a question. We're gonna go over to the New York Jets and Aaron Glenn. What do you guys think of after their last game, which they looked awful? They said Glenn got rounded up his players and said, "Okay, we're going to do a practice with none of the other coaches involved, just you guys and me. That's it." Your thoughts, Jeremy?
He's doing what he did here with the defense in the first year when it was bad. He did the same thing in the offseason, working out that defense. He goes, "Hey, evidently we got some guys butting heads. We need to pull together and do something." So I think that's what he's trying to do, is rally them together and build that team chemistry that they need. Because right now, on paper, that should be the second best team in the division, and it's not. I mean, on paper, I like that team better than the Dolphins.
Oh yeah,
but because Mel McDaniel gets the most out of that offense, I will take the Dolphins to win more games than them again this year.
Yeah. I mean, I do like the Jets, of course, they have talent on paper. If they had quarterback play that was half competent in 22 and 23, they probably make the playoffs both of those years, and Robert Saleh is still there. But unfortunately, it's not only the question mark at quarterback that is Justin Fields. It's just, I know this is kind of an easy fallback, but it is the New York Jets, and we know they're dysfunctional. We know Woody Johnson's a problem, and I like Aaron Glenn, but I do feel bad for him because, again, Woody Johnson is a problem.
But he was, I will give it to Glenn. He went to the team to coach that he was drafted from. That's a dream of any NFL player that wants to be a head coach. When they get into coaching, that's what they want to do is coach the team they were drafted by. So I give him kudos on that. But he's a defensive-minded coach. This is his first time as a head coach. So that means he's not as good on the offensive side of the ball, right?
Right. So
When
the
you
hope
have a
is
first-time head coach, you should not pick up a first-time OC. I don't like that combination for him because offense has been the issue there more than the defense. The defense has been legit all of the years with Salah and whoever else was there. The defense was legit because the defense has talent. The offense wasn't able to move the ball because they've been a quarterback or a running back or a wide receiver or an offensive line or whatever away from being irrelevant. And that comes down to coaching. You coach what you have on your team.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I mean, you saw what Ben Johnson did. He's an offensive guy. He went and bought in Dennis Allen, who, again, kind of like Josh McDaniels, not the best head coach, but I remember he was in New Orleans. He was a very good defensive coordinator.
There you go. And I've been calling Candy, can I say it? I've been calling Kyle Shanahan ever since he was the offensive coordinator of the Falcons in that Super Bowl because of how that bet for the Falcons, how bad that second half was called offensively.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is, of course, I mean, he's one of the best offensive minds in the NFL. He's a lot up there with Sean McVay, has probably one of the most friendly quarterback systems. It's him, McVay, and probably Kevin O'Connell. But
And
it's
maybe
just
even the guy up in Matt LaFleur too.
yeah,
Very
Matt
quarterback.
LaFleur. But it just feels like, and then he went and did it again in both of their Super Bowl losses.
Got a big lead, go into the second half, don't run the ball, lose the lead, lose the game.
Mm-hmm.
And and that's the biggest Super Bowl comeback in history what the Patriots pulled off. Down
Yes.
31-3 at the half.
It was 28-3, but yeah.
Yeah, whatever. It's still it's awful. It's awful. I mean, everybody makes fun of Detroit for losing a 17-point lead at the half in the conference championship that game. I was like, you're talking about the Super Bowl, and you're talking about a 25-point lead. Plus, whatever.
Oh yeah, don't remind me.
But that's why I've been saying he's Kyle Scamahan. He like I used to call him Scam Newton after his back injury. And everybody said, why do you call him that? I said, because he was scamming a paycheck everywhere he went.
Okay, guys. So what game are you most looking forward to this weekend? Obviously, I know most of them teams aren't going to be playing their starters, but who do you want to see? Who are you looking forward to seeing the most? The backups of whoever.
I'm looking at the position battle for safety right now. I hope Maurice Norris is cleared and can play in this game. If not, he might lose that backup job here in Detroit because Eric Hallett and the other both of these guys are UDFAs this year. Eric Hallett, who's a safety, and Ian Kennelly out of Grand Valley State University, another safety. Those guys have been playing great. And I think they're making the roster. As a matter of fact, I said Ian Kennelly would make the roster before OTA started. That was my prediction because I just looked at game film, and and he's from a Michigan-based college, so of course I had a little bit more film than the average guy would be able to watch because you got to find out where those CCTV for the smaller schools are.
Yeah. Of course, I'm looking forward to our game. We're playing the Dallas Cowboys. Neither team is going to be playing their starters. I know Raheem Morris announced the other day that Jalen Walker, James Pierce are not going to play. It doesn't seem like a Xavier Watts is going to play. Billy Bowman. I don't know what happens there. I do think, and I mentioned this the other day on Twitter, that Billy Bowman, I predict, will be our week 1 starter at nickel. Xavier Watts, I think, will work his way into a starting role. But Jordan Fuller, who we got from the Rams last year, who is familiar with Raheem Morris, will start initially. But I am looking at our backup offensive line, especially at tackle. Our starting offensive line is solid. Ryan Newsel, new center after Drew Dahlman left. He's been here since 2023. Played solid in the 8 or 9 games he started last year when Drew Dahlman got hurt. One issue, he was the most penalized center in the NFL last year, despite starting only 8 games. Chris Lindstrom is a stud. Jake Matthews, of course, is steady. He's been steady. Matthew Bergeron is one of the ascending young offensive guards in the NFL. But I'm looking at our backups, and the preseason, they have been horrible. First game against Detroit, 11 rushes, 22 yards. Second game against Tennessee, allowed 6 pressures, accounted for 5 of our 10 penalties, including 4 false starts. Elijah Wilkinson, Jack Nelson, our 7th-round pick out of Wisconsin this year. They're going to get a lot of looks at tackle, and they were not good last week. And I think how they look this week is going to play a big role in how we go about addressing this offensive tackle position while Caleb McGarry is out. Roster cut downs are next week. I would not be surprised if, let's say, there's a surprise cut or if there's a reliable veteran out there, like a David Bakhtiari, who is a free agent, but of course there's the issues with his health. Maybe we take a flyer on that and we can put them there until McGarry is ready to go. Eddie, what do I expect of Kyle Pitts? He has had a good camp. It seems like he is building a repertoire with Michael Penix, but I'm just not buying into the hype. There's only one ball. We've got a lot of weapons. We've got Drake, Mooney. Then in the backfield, we've got Bijan and Tyler Algier. I just think I'm just not buying into the Kyle Pitts hype like a lot of people are. Some people are saying, oh, this is the year. This is the year it's going to happen. Michael Penix is going to unlock him. I just think we have to accept the fact that he is not going to be this generational unicorn that we all thought we were getting out of the University of Florida. It's just not going to happen. And I do think he will be better this year. I could see somewhere around 750 yards, around 5 or 6 touchdowns. But at the end of the day, will it be enough for him to get that second contract from the Falcons? Unfortunately, I don't think so. But yeah, I'm looking at tackle, and I'm also looking at nickel. I know it was mentioned that you're going to see Natron Brooks, undrafted free agent 2023. He played a lot in the preseason last year, played well, made the practice squad, made the active roster for a little bit last year, didn't get a lot of playing time. But he has played very well in both of our first 2 preseason games. And I do expect that he will make the final roster over the likes of maybe a Lamar Jackson. So I'm looking at our backup offensive line. I'm looking at Natron Brooks. And I'm looking at, again, how this wide receiver room is going to shake out. I think we do have a much more clear answer on that. Chris Blair, I think, solidified himself a spot on the active roster. Now it's just a matter of who gets that last spot. It's going to be maybe David Sills, maybe Nick Nash. I would give David Sills the edge right now. So those are really the 3 things I am looking at. I know they bought in Lenny Krieg, kicker out of Germany. They're going to have a competition between him and Younghoe Koo. Seems like, based off what Raheem Morris said yesterday, Younghoe Koo is going to keep his job, and they're going to put Krieg on the practice squad. Also, Kobe Bryant. I think he's healthy now, undrafted free agent out of Kansas. A lot of people were surprised that he went undrafted. I know his size was an issue, which I think contributed to that. I expect him to get some run if he is healthy tomorrow, and let's see where he ends up on the roster.
So I'm going to say the one thing that I would like to see, especially from the Packers, is not as many penalties. If you don't clean up the false starts, like you're giving yards away. Like that's undisciplined. That's what that is, and that starts with the coach. So, Coach LaFleur, you need to, and I know these are preseason, but I don't care. Everybody that is playing in these games is playing for a job. Every one of them. You can't have 3, 4, 5 false starts on the same player. Like you.
Yeah. I said the same thing last week. Like the Falcons in their preseason game against the Titans had 10 penalties. 4 of those were false starts. And everyone's like, well, it's preseason. But still, I think it is an indictment on the coaching staff. Hello, Raheem Morris. Like, you can't be undisciplined. Like, again, there's a saying that how you practice is how you play. And if you look on disciplined in the preseason, if you're having penalties, miscommunications, whatnot, chances are that's going to reflect week 1, especially when you don't play your starters in the preseason. So we need to clean up the penalties, and the offensive line particularly has to be better.
Okay, so let's switch gears a little and let's go to the MLB because they're still in season. Obviously, we still have a good month and a half, just about a month and a half to go. Jeremy, what are your thoughts on the teams that are doing well, and is there a surprise of a team that's not doing well for you?
The Dodgers. The Dodgers are floundering. And with that roster, there's no reason for it. I mean, if they were being paid this year what they're worth per year on those contracts, that would be the highest payroll in baseball this season, to be sitting there and losing ground to the San Diego Padres. We expected the San Diego Padres to be good. And lo and behold, what did I say my first show back when we were talking specifically about slumping teams and surging teams? Everything stopped and everything picked up again. Look at the Tigers, almost to a 10-game lead in the division again. Somebody said that would happen.
Really? I don't know who that could possibly be.
I don't know either.
Samir, your thoughts?
I think what really stands out is with the Dodgers and their struggles, especially with Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman, the second halves they've been having. I know Mookie's had some issues with injuries. Freddie's in a slump. But really the Padres are only 1 game behind the Dodgers for that division. The Padres have not won the West since 2006. The Dodgers have won it 12 out of the last 13, 11 out of the last 12 years. If they win it, it'll be 12 out of the last 13. But really how wide open the National League is. The Phillies, in case you guys haven't heard, just lost Zach Wheeler for the season. Blood clots. Jose Alvarado, one of their better relievers, just got popped 80 games earlier in the year for PED, so he won't be available in the postseason. The New York Mets are imploding. But, I mean, but again, we've seen that song and dance before with them. So while I am surprised given the deadline they had, I like what they did at the deadline. The Mets are gonna Met at the end of the day, as the saying goes, and they're kind of going through that phase right now. They just lost today to the Washington Nationals 9-8. It was a really bad loss. Cincinnati's on their heels. They're only half a game out. So we'll see. So the Phillies just lost their ace. The Mets are imploding again. You've got the Cubs who have been playing well, the Padres who've been playing well. So if there really is a year for the Brewers to make a run in the postseason, they haven't won a postseason series since 2018. This is the year because the National League is wide open.
Oh, wouldn't that be just wonderful? They're the first, let's face it, the Brewers have the best record in baseball right now. They're the first team to 80 wins so far. Fun little thing. They actually, and I love this because it's a small market, but a local restaurant chain actually gave free hamburgers yesterday afternoon because because the Brewers had won 12 in a row. And yes, and if anybody wants to chime in, I know the Brewers went down to Wrigley Field, had a 5-game series, won 2 out of the 5. Yes, they lost 3 out of the 5, but they still have a 7-game lead over the Cubs right now. And they're just playing fun, exciting baseball. It's exciting to see, but yes, I want to see more. I'd really like to see them win playoff games, and so bring on.
They had the Mets last year.
Until Pete Alonso took care of them.
Yep.
Yeah. The key I think will their pitching hold out, and but I like the direction that they've gone. I like where they're at. I think they're having fun, and I think that's really what matters right now. So I'm going to do a quick station break, and then we're going to go to my town. So let me go ahead and do South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by my husband, Scott, Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. He talks about how the media has changed over the last 40 years, old school media versus new school media. It is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where both of these gentlemen have written for us. So go check out their writings. And then if you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. If you see that red subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner, that means you haven't subscribed to us yet. Don't know why, what you're waiting for, but please do so. Then like it and share it. And then turn on your notifications so that you get notified whenever we go live. Excuse me. If you want to advertise, you can call Scott 954-304-4941. And if you want to be a guest or have topic ideas, you can always email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Samir, what is happening in your town?
All right. So again, not much going on the Hawks side of things. Zachary Ricochet, Kristaps Porzingis are playing international ball in their home countries. Not a whole lot going on there. The Braves won their 4th consecutive series with the 1-0 win over the White Sox yesterday. Yes, the farm system has issues with position players and their depth, which I think has contributed to the state of the team right now. But we have had some solid pitchers come out over the last couple of years. Recently, we've had Spencer Schwellenbach, and now Hurston Waldrep pitched another great game in that 1-0 win. He pitched 7 innings, allowed 4 hits, 7 strikeouts, 1 walk, and of course, 0 earned runs. So that is one bright spot to take away from this season. Drake Baldwin still in the race for the National League Rookie of the Year with Isaac Collins from the Brewers. If we would give Drake Baldwin more playing time, he has a good chance of winning Rookie of the Year. And if he wins Rookie of the Year, we would get another early draft pick as a result. With the Falcons, it was an eventful week and not in a very good way. Um, you had Caleb McGarry go down in practice. He was carted off the field with a lower body injury, which is something you never want to see. As I mentioned earlier, outside of Michael Penix, he is probably our most important player on offense, not in regards of talent, but the fact that he is our blindside blocker. And not only that, we had Storm Norton, our backup swing tackle, who, as I mentioned, has appeared in a few games over the last couple of years. We got him off the practice squad from, I believe, the Rams, might have been the Chargers, but he has played some solid football, especially in pass protection. He's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks with an ankle surgery. So, and then, of course, our two backup options are Elijah Wilkinson and Jack Nelson. And if you watched them in the preseason, they did not inspire a ton of confidence. So if you are a Falcons fan, that is definitely a concern, especially with it looking like McGarry's going to be out long term. Roster cut downs are here. They're coming up. It is going to be interesting to see who gets cut and who doesn't. Maybe we go in the trade market, end up sending a late round pick for an offensive tackle who can just be serviceable. We're not asking for all pro play. We're not asking for Penei Sewell or Lane Johnson. We just need them to be serviceable and protect Penix's blind side. With that, I will expect. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot more Charlie Warner helping in pass pro, especially with McGarry out. So that's something to keep an eye on. We play our last preseason game at Dallas against the Cowboys. Hopefully we can get a win out of that. We're 0-2 now. Let's see what happens. So that is from my town.
Jeremy, what is happening in your town?
Well, we activated defensive tackle Micah Wingo back to the roster, and he actually performed in practice today in the joint practice with the Texans. We have Sam Laporta returned back to practice on Tuesday. So that was great because he's back. And we got people coming back slowly but surely, little at a little. Today, Graham Glasgow left practice early. He was stepped on by somebody at the lower leg injury. I think it's a bruised foot. And why lose your starter for any amount of weeks over a bruised foot? He walked off the field on his own power. So he left practice a little early. But the surprises that I've had was Jackson Meeks, who's actually Zadarius Smith's cousin, which we picked up as a UDFA. Him and Isaac Tesla, our third-round pick, have been stellar these last couple preseason games. And a big reason why we beat the Falcons. But had to throw that in there. Sorry, Samir. But it was preseason. The records don't matter. It's kind of like points on whose line is it anyways. What you want to see is development and growth. Ahmad Hassanin, we dodged a bullet. He was injured in that game, and it's a partially torn pec that does not require surgery. We have not heard grade 1 or grade 2, which means at worst he could be back by week 3, or at best he could be back by week 3. At worst it'll be week 10 if it's a grade 2, because that's a 6 to 12 week injury.
Okay. You gonna talk about Tigers at all or no?
What can I say? Scooble the other night, and what's the guy from Astros that's their best pitcher? Them two put on a clinic. It goes to the 10th inning, nothing, and their closer walks the bases loaded and walks Gleyber Torres in for a 1-0 win. So not a hit in the extra innings, and we win on a walk-off. A walk-off walk.
Wow.
So they're still leading the division. The Guardians are doing what they do. They're winning their matchups with people, but it's not enough to gain ground because the Tigers are matching with them. If they win If they win 2 out of 3, we win 2 out of 3. So as long as that happens, it's going to end up being exactly way better than my expectation to start the season. Because I said at the winter meetings when I looked at the roster, I said I didn't see where this roster was that much more improved than what it was last year. I expected third or second place again and to be in the wild card play-in game. That's what I expected. Did I expect that we'd be leading the division after 100 games with the best record in baseball at the time? No. When they started slumping, did I panic? No. Because there was a bigger sample size of good baseball over bad baseball. Slumps happen. You don't know what caused it, but the whole team went into a funk. The whole bullpen fell apart. We had one starter that would pitch good and nobody else would. It reminded me of that year after we got rid of everybody and kept Justin Verlander that year.
It's funny because you talk about that, about going into the slump, because they asked Christian Yelich the other day and they said, "Oh no, you've lost 2 in a row to the Cubs," and of course, they're the ones right behind you. What's wrong? And he's like, "We play how many games in the year?" He goes, "If we lost these games because we did mental mistakes or we were making stupid mistakes, that would be one thing. But if a team just outright beats us and we're out there playing it, it happens. It's okay. You can get through them." But with that being said, what's happening in my town? We're going to start with, obviously, the Packers. They have their last preseason game on Saturday. Jordan Love had his surgery. He's going to be fine. He's not going to be playing. At least I don't think he's going to be playing. There's no reason to play him, although I would argue that, well, we're not going to go there. But as long as they clean up some of those false starts, because that's what really gets me. If you really want your job, because these are the second and third stringers that are going to be out there playing in these games, you want to prove that you want the job, go for it. As far as my Milwaukee Brewers, they have a home. They are now at home after being with the Cubs for these last 5 games. They're playing the San Francisco Giants. What's the significance of this weekend's game? On Sunday, the Milwaukee Brewers are holding a celebration of life for the late Bob Uecker on Sunday, August 24th at American Family Field when they host the San Francisco Giants. The special event includes a pregame program hosted by Bob Costas, special guests, tributes throughout the game, limited edition merchandise, and commemorative items for attendees. Proceeds from the 50-50 raffle will benefit charities Uecker supported. What a great way to honor somebody that dedicated how much of his life to the Brewers and the game. So I would expect it would be a complete sellout. I would be shocked if it wasn't. And then with that being said, down here in Miami, the Marlins take on Toronto, and Toronto is in the hunt and in the race, so I expect it to be interesting. I also would say Don Mattingly, who used to be the manager for the Marlins, he is on the coaching staff of Toronto. So I expect to at least see him. We're hopefully going to be covering one of the games. So we'll be down there. I'll be down there taking some pictures. The Marlins, while they're improved in some areas, sometimes they take a step forward and a couple steps back. So we will see. They are actually 60 and 67 and third in the NL East. So whereas Toronto is 74 and 54 and first in the AL East. So the next thing I guess I'm really looking forward to, and I'll probably talk more about this next week, is the start of college football. And not this week, but the following week, Miami hosts Notre Dame. So that'll be interesting. With that being said, guys, anything else you wanted to talk about tonight? No.
Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is the starter of the Colts. And he has almost, what's funny is I'm going to give Trevor Lawrence a little credit. 4 years versus 6. He has 13,700 yards. Daniel Jones has 14,780. But guess what? They've played almost the exact same amount of games. Trevor Lawrence right now has an 85.1 QBR. Daniel Jones has an 84.7 for his career. 70 touchdowns for Daniel Jones, 68 for Trevor Lawrence. So in the same amount of games, a little less yards, but a little better rating because he has a couple less interceptions. That's the difference.
Again, I just feel like 28 years old. He's got 6 years under him. He's 22, 44, and 1 as a starter in the NFL. He's never thrown for over 3,200 yards in a season. But 2022, that was Saquon, the defense, and a coaching masterclass by Brian Dable and Wink Martindale. That was not because of Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones had 2 seasons where he's thrown over 3,000 yards.
Yeah, 3,200. I mean, 32, not 3,000, 3,200. But, I mean, if you are a regime in a must-win year, I just don't see how you can put your faith in Daniel Jones. And if you really didn't believe in Anthony Richardson that much, then maybe you move in a different direction, maybe in a more aggressive direction outside of Daniel Jones, outside of Anthony Richardson, if you really didn't believe in him that much. But I just see it as I can understand both sides of it. But for me, I've got to go with the 23-year-old who, remind you, is younger than a good handful of these young starting quarterbacks in the NFL, younger than Jaden Daniels, younger than Michael Penix, the same age as a Bryce Young. I think around the same age as Drake May. Like, I think, and that goes to my point earlier as to where you see guys like CJ Stroud and Jaden Daniels winning playoff games, throwing for 300 yards multiple times as rookies. And I feel like us as NFL fans and people who follow the league forget what the norm is supposed to be for a rookie quarterback in the NFL. Okay. And usually it takes guys 3 years to develop. And I feel like I understand that Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen have to win now to keep their jobs. But if you really needed to win now to keep your job, is Daniel Jones that much of an upgrade from what you had last year in Joe Flacco, from what you had the year before in Gardner Minshew, when you went 17-17 in those 2 combined years? Is that going to help you get to the playoffs? And yeah, Eddie, you're right. He should have never been drafted that high. I feel like he should have stayed another year in college. Yeah, you're absolutely right. But
okay, so here's what I'm going to say about that year that you said was all Saquon Barkley. That was the year he had a 67.2, which was his second highest completion percentage, the 3,205 yards, 15 touchdowns and only 5 picks. He had a long of 65 yards. He was sacked 44 times. You know, in his career, the only year that he wasn't sacked more than 30 times, do you know what year it was?
Was it
2021. And you know why? He got hurt. That was the year he got hurt at I think 2/3 into the season, where he only had 2,400 yards, and he had an 84.8 rating. In the 2022 season, was his best season statistically across the board, with a 92.5 rating, despite being sacked 44 times. I'm saying he was never given an O-line, and that's the difference between Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix and C.J. Stroud. Those 3 rookie quarterbacks you just mentioned, guess what? All of them were sacked less than 30 times in their rookie season. and that's why they did well. If you don't have an O-line, you won't do well. And the O-line in Indianapolis accidentally is twice as good as what any O-line the New York Giants ever put in front of Daniel Jones.
I mean, maybe, but I just feel like he does not raise the bar. He doesn't raise that bar of 17-17 from what you had before. And it's not really about Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson. It is about the process with the Colts regime. Like, if you did not believe in Anthony Richardson that much, why didn't you go out and get a QB who you thought would significantly raise that bar? If you need to make the playoffs to keep your job, you should have went out and done that. It's the same. It's not the same thing, but similar to what Arthur Smith did in his last year in Atlanta. You went 14-20 in his first 2 years as a head coach with a 35-year-old Matt Ryan who had lost a step, and then you had Marcus Mariota. And then you go into a year where you need to win to make the playoffs with Desmond Ridder, a third-round pick, unproven as your starter. Your offense looks anemic. You went 7-10. Arthur Smith got fired. Desmond Ridder got traded. So I just feel like that if you needed to get a quarterback that's going to even Russell Wilson, I feel like would have been an upgrade over what they have now. And yeah, he's not the quarterback that he was in Seattle. And yeah, he had that stretch in Pittsburgh where he played good football. But if you were to ask me, my job is on the line. Who do I want? Russell Wilson, Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson. I'm still taking Russell Wilson over those two guys. And I'm just using that as a hypothetical. I mean, hey, you could have called Atlanta and said, hey, we're not sold on our quarterback. What do you want for Kirk Cousins? Like, yeah,
They actually did. They actually did before they actually did do that before they signed Daniel Jones.
I didn't hear any posts about it. Yeah, because there was rumors about it. Hey, maybe Kirk could go to the Colts. Maybe the Browns I heard a lot of Browns and I heard a lot of Pittsburgh if Atlanta was to let him go. But if you are the Colts and you don't like Anthony Richardson, Kirk Cousins, what people forget before his shoulder injury, which Raheem Morris should have had him out of there after that shoulder injury earlier, when we started 6-3, Kirk Cousins in his first 9 games in Atlanta last year he threw for the 500-yard game against the Bucs. We know that he won Offensive Player of the Year again against the Bucs, but he threw for. So he had I think 15 touchdowns, 16 touchdowns, I believe 7 or 8 picks, and the offense was getting increasingly better. And you've got weapons on the outside. You have a good running back in Jonathan Taylor. You've got this rookie tight end in Tyler Warren out of Penn State. So you've got weapons. While he's not Minnesota Kirk, and while he may not match that Kirk Cousins that played against the Bucs, had a good game against Dallas, had a good game against Carolina, he still probably gets you to maybe 9-10 wins, which most of the time gets you in the playoffs. So I feel like this is on the regime more than it is about Daniel Jones versus Anthony Richardson.
I just think it's a major upgrade from Anthony Richardson because Anthony Richardson's awful. That's just me. I don't think Anthony Richardson needs to be in the CFL or play in Arena League. He needs to be somewhere where he can be used something different because he's not a quarterback. He's a guy that can run the ball and throw it every now and then.
I mean, I feel like for me, again, and I mentioned it earlier, when he took himself out of that game against the Patriots and said that he was tired, I feel like in the NFL, especially as a starting quarterback, that's not something you come back from. Unfortunately, it's similar to Vince Young in Tennessee when he basically I believe, walked out of the locker room. Him and Jeff Fisher had an argument, and I don't think he ended up starting in the NFL again. The Titans cut him, ended up not starting in the NFL again. Similar situation here years ago with Jeff George in Atlanta. Now he did start again, but that he got into an argument with the head coach at the time, June Jones, on the sideline. And he ended up getting benched for the rest of the season, ended up getting cut. But now that's a little different because he ended up starting. But still, like things like that, especially as a quarterback, follow you. And I kind of think that's what is following Anthony Richardson right now.
Okay, with that being said, I think we're going to go around the horn and tell everybody how they can get a hold of you and find you, and we're going to call it a night. Mr. Samir, how can people find you?
You can find me on X at ATL_Samir2401. I post a lot of Atlanta sports-based content. I'm going to post some of my articles there as well. You can also find me on Fire Up every Thursday night. Thank you guys for tuning in as always. It's been a pleasure.
Smoking Jeremy B, how can people find you and when and where?
Well, you can find me every Thursday night right here on the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel on Fire Up, which also simulcasts into my channel, which is Kneecap Fighting with Motor City Lions, where I go live Monday through Friday religiously. And starting week 1, I have a Saturday night show where we're going to be talking fantasy football, where I have a co-host with me, Austin Hacker from the Lions Fan Cave chat. Yeah, you can also find me on the Huddle Sports Network. You can also find me on the SouthFloridaTribune.com, where you can find my writings soon under the Motor City Tribune heading. I mean, there's a lot there already. There's a lot of content from the last 3 seasons. It's time to start this season. That's all I can say about it. But try every day to be a better person than you were the day before, because that's the only way to make the world a better place. It starts right here.
Okay, I'm going to last plug Lessons from the Microphone, tuning into the enduring wisdom of visionary leaders. It is written by my husband, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. It talks about how media has changed over the 40-plus years he's been in the business. Go get your copy today. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where you can find the ratings of these two gentlemen. You can also find pictures that I've taken and a whole plethora of great content. If you are into any of the Florida colleges, a lot of them are sending us content. So the Hurricanes, the Gators, the Seminoles, the Bulls, and the Owls, all of them send us content. So go check it out. As I said earlier, I believe we will be going to the Marlins Blue Jays game this weekend. I think we're gonna hit Saturday's game, so hopefully you'll be able to see pictures that I take from that. I will also say that I'm gonna plug tomorrow night. Scott is gonna be on a guest on a New York broadcast at 10 p.m. and hopefully we'll be able to simulcast it on ours too. So hopefully you'll be able to see that 10 o'clock tomorrow night. And then Scott did start a new show last week, Saturday. They are not going to be doing one this Saturday, but it is called Talking Baseball. Here's the logo for you guys. But it's a baseball show with him and former New York manager Mickey Callaway. So that wanted to plug that as well. With that being said, I want to thank everybody that's been in the comment section and watching us. And we're here for all these people that have been in the comment section. And we appreciate all the comments. With that, I hope you guys all have a great weekend. Enjoy the football and baseball. Have a good one.